go ahead and get started if that's okay. Everybody, welcome to the work session tonight, and I appreciate everybody's attendance. I was going to got a text from Ronnie Clark. He had something come up at work. He couldn't be here, and Stephen had a conflict with his son has a Waynesville Middle School. I think had a band concert, and he wanted to be there for his son. So we'll go ahead and get started. And Dr. Nolte.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you all for coming. I do think this practice of work sessions that was started under Dr. Garrett is a good thing. It's an opportunity for us to talk and decide if we want to move forward on things or not, or to catch you up on matters. And tonight we'll have a closed session a little later to catch you up on some stuff, which may save us some time on the regular board meeting night. So just wanted to say that up front. The first thing on the closed session agenda, I've mentioned several times to the board at various times that we had purged our regular education records, and we got all of those out of the filing cabinets for graduates except the last 2 years. And then after 2 years, with those records staying here in the schools, they are digitized. And they're sent off to digitize. We leave them at the school site for 2 years because when someone graduates from Tuscola, Pisgah, Central Haywood, Early College, that's where they go to get their transcript, and it'll be right there. 2 years later, we take that regular record, send it off to a company that we begin contracting with. Oh my goodness, 6 or 7 years ago, Mr. Francis, pretty good while ago, Dr. Garrett, several of us worked on that. That has worked really well. In the special education department, we have not done that yet with those records. We have some from previous graduates that were in their cumulative folder, and those were digitized if they just happened to be in there. But many of their IEPs and related assessments are literally in filing cabinets in our office, and when we have a records request, we have to go and search and find. So we have a plan to digitize those records. We don't know that the digital costs will be significant enough to even worry about because we already send a batch every 2 years. So there may be a little bit of cost up front. It's mainly purging literally thousands of records and getting things out of the records that don't need to be there. Simultaneously, we have the assistant, the administrative assistant for the EC department, Lynn Scarborough, who plans to leave us. She has gone from full-time to less than full-time, and she manages to pull that off because she's done it a very long time and knows where everything is and can do it quicker. But eventually that department will need an administrative assistant, and we think Lynn will leave sometime between August and early next fall, October. So our plan is to address both of those things at one time. We'll talk a little bit later about a different matter, but all of the administrative assistants at the system level in our office, maintenance, transportation, and other places are a pay grade 63. We only have one other employee that's a pay grade higher than that, and that's Brooke, which is your assistant and my assistant. So our plan for addressing the EC records would be as such if you would approve it, and then we'll bring it back to you at the November meeting or December meeting or sometime, would be to advertise for someone to digitize the EC records and to train in the EC department to be their assistant when Lynn leaves. And we would make sure that every applicant knew that was what was going on. If you approve that process, we would hire them at a pay grade 60, which is not the central office pay grade. It's the pay grade of a lead secretary at a school. They would work at a pay grade 60. They would spend most of their time early on purging all those records and getting those ready to digitize. And then simultaneously, they would be learning from Lynn and Brandy what to do as the primary assistant. And if they do that well, then it would be our understanding and theirs that they would become that assistant. So we'd pay them less to purge the records and learn. And then if they really turned out to be a good one, then we would ask you to put her or him, but that person, in as the full-time EC assistant. Any questions about that? We're just trying to do two birds with one stone. Figured we'd get a little higher quality person if we did it that way, and they would certainly be better prepared to replace Lynn if we did it that way.
Sounds good.
Any questions? All of that paid out of EC, unless for some reason they went in the hole, and we do not expect that. They usually do have some carryover. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions?
All right, thank you. Brandy will be smiling. Jason and I and Brandy have talked about this numerous times over the last several months, and we do not have someone in mind. We did early on, so this will be just sort of wide open. You know, we'll advertise and see and get the best one we can get.
Very good.
Thank you very much. The second thing on your item is basically the first official step in modernizing our HR and finance records. The whole state will be doing this over the next 2 or 3 years. We want to be one of the systems that makes a decision early on and begins to work on this very quickly. Nathan up in the finance department managed a lot of the review for us. There was a committee with several people on the committee. The state picked 2 vendors. One is Tyler Technologies, and the other is Cherry Road, which runs the Oracle system. In our opinion, and the opinion of the committee, Oracle is the Cadillac system. It has many more options in it. Once implemented, either system will be much better than what we have now. We literally have green screens still in the finance department. But both of these companies would put us in a place where we're essentially self-service. If you're an employee, you go on there yourself. You make changes if you have a name change. We can do things like we like to buy technology software that is not so old that it doesn't work on our system, or is not so new that we don't like to repair it. And we can do things like literally set up shopping carts for hardware that we have pre-approved and put it on there. The school would go on, place their order, and it would default directly to their budget code. Much faster, lots of bells and whistles. We do anticipate that there will be about 1.5 years of transition. In terms of cost, if you look at it on paper, Cherry Road is a little more. However, we would have to supplement Tyler Technologies because it does not offer services that we already buy from third parties. Frontline, which does a lot of our credit for teachers and other services. So in the long run, Cherry Road is the best option for us. This letter of intent I would like to bring to the board meeting on Thursday, just for your information. We're not spending any money. We are just saying to the state, we pick Cherry Road and Oracle. And then what we would do is the things under funding is we would work on a statement of work with Oracle and say, yes, we have picked you, and this is what you're going to do for us and the time frame that you're going to do it on. We're still meeting to talk about implementation. And implementation could start as soon as January, and it could start as late as a year or a year and a half from now. We have got to decide what they can do for us. While our current employees are here, we do anticipate that we would lose one or two in the next year and a half and then decide. But we met last week on that. We're going to meet again. So we would do a statement of work, and then we would eventually do a contract. And we're already contracting with Sunpac and HRMS and other software companies, but we would do a contract that would have the money in it, and obviously that would come to you, as most contracts like that do. So it's just letting you know what this is and giving you a little background. When we start implementing, we would like to take a work session and just show you some of the neat stuff it will do. And that, again, that may be early in 2020, or it may be closer to 2021. Any questions about that?
Any questions, anyone?
All right.
Very good.
Thank you very, very much. Jill, as you know, took over the accreditation and school improvement planning and academic stuff. She's doing a really good job with our folks. And when we got ESSA, I don't want to steal too much of her thunder, but when we got the new No Child Left Behind version, they did some things that are going to require some schools to report differently. And so she did not want you to be confused about, I thought we already approved the school improvement plan, what is this? So she's going to take a few minutes and just let you know about that. So when you see that, that won't be new to you.
Yeah, good evening. Good to see you guys. Yeah, No Child Left Behind. You remember No Child Left Behind. ESSA replaced that, Every Student Succeeds Act. And under No Child Left Behind, every year the subgroups had to go up a little bit. They were supposed to inch up. Everyone was going to be 100% by, I don't know, 2000, whenever that year was. Anyway, nobody ever obviously got there. And then there were sanctions if you didn't. Do you remember when we kind of had to start providing transportation, to schools and things like that? So ESSA replaced No Child Left Behind, and there are no sanctions. There is a list, okay, that you can be on a list. And so, as we know right now, all that will happen is you are on this list if one of your subgroups does not meet their expectations or their targeted performance. So that happened in 1920, and several of our schools, we have 3 of our elementary schools who were on that list for a subgroup. We have Jonathan Valley, who is on the subgroup on that list for their ELL and their Exceptional Children subgroup, their EC. Also Hazelwood and Clyde for their EC subgroup only. Hazelwood and Clyde are EC subgroup. Jonathan Valley doesn't even have an English language learner subgroup now, but they did the year that they were on there. All of our middle schools were on that list because of their Exceptional Children subgroup. And Tuscola High School was on that list for Exceptional Children's too. And to put it kind of in perspective, there are 1,634 schools in North Carolina that are on that list currently. And so there's where we are. What they have to do, and also Central Haywood High School, there's 2 lists. There's a TSI list, a targeted support, and then there's a CSI, which is a comprehensive support. Central Haywood is a comprehensive support school because of their grad rate. If you have a graduation rate below 66%, then you're on that comprehensive support. So I don't want to say all the alternative schools in the state are on there, but a lot of them are, okay, because their grad rates are not above 66%. So within that, this year, there's no, you stay on this list for 3 years. If you meet your targeted performance, you get off that list. Nobody else gets on the list for 3 years. So that's just how those rules are, unless we have heard some rumblings. Maybe these rules might change, but as right now, that's where we are with it. So one of the things they have to submit is a plan through an online system called NC Star, and it is an online school improvement planning tool. It is available to the public. They have to pick key indicators that are working on, and we can provide coaching comments within that digital instrument. It is required to have your approval. Those plans have to have your approval, and and what we did since a year ago, you approved another school improvement plan for them. Those are still in effect until June. So they tried to take those pieces, put them within these plans that I'm going to share with you. You've got a copy of, and then they also included some of their other goals. So this is this will, after you approve, and those are in effect, and those will be in effect for 3 years. They can go in and change them at any time. And at a later date, I could give you a password where you could get in, and you can also see, you know, the changes and what's going on too in those schools. We do not know. Our other schools that aren't on these lists are not required to use this tool. So what I have told our principals, let's wait till this year. We've got several of our schools using it. If we like it, we can have everyone do it. If we don't, we can have a hybrid. And counties are doing that. We're just in the first year of it. We don't really know what it's like. It's pretty cumbersome. It's a lot, but like Sean Parrish said, it also forces you to look at some things too on a consistent basis. So there's good and bad with it. So we'll evaluate that. And if we decide for everyone to do that, we'll go through that. So you have a copy of the plans. They're required by the state ESSA plan that was, you know, submitted to the federal government to pick 12 indicators. So anytime where it says key, that's one of the indicators they've picked. And so they're required to pick 12, but they focus on 3. So they really tried to channel in that focus on 3. So Brooke was also trying to upload a digital. The files were so big. So hopefully y'all get that, or we'll have that. Dr. Bill, she said maybe by tomorrow you'll have it in a digital version too. What questions do you have for me just about these plans and NC Star?
Anybody have any questions?
So these packets you give us are each school that's having to do it, correct?
Each school is having to do it. And again, the almost 2,000 schools in the state, the majority of them are their EC subgroup. They're exceptional children. And it's not growth that got them in there. It's the proficiency of EC students. And so we, you know, that can vary, but that's the target that got them in that. And of course, Central Haywood's again was grad rate being below 66%.
So they can't get off this for 3 years.
They cannot get off this list but there are no sanctions to it either. And in fact, the TSI schools each got money. They said it was a one-time event, and Central Haywood got money enough to buy 2 graduation coaches, you know, to help and do a lot of cool staff development. So we're hoping that's going to be very beneficial to them. I know he's already seeing, you know, the effects of that really with those coaches. The 2 retired principals that he's hired to help him coach. So there was some money that came with the CSI school.
Again, the reason to bring it to you is, number one, we'll ask you at some point in time to approve these plans, so we want you to know what they are.
Yeah, I'd like to ask if you could approve them if Thursday night. Would that be too soon?
That's up to the board.
Okay.
And then also, as you go through, especially if you've approved school improvement plans in the past, you'll know that these just look different, and they're not for everyone.
So do each one of these keys have some kind of meaning somewhere? Is there like a answer key for these codes?
No, I mean there are hundreds of key indicators that they could pick from, so they tried to pick the ones that something they really wanted to work on. Okay. So they picked that indicator, which is basic and topped out, you know, it's that. And then
they chose the ones they wanted to do. These weren't things.
No, they chose the ones
poorly on or anything. Okay.
Right, they chose the ones, and then underneath you can see the strategies, the action steps they've put underneath, and those timelines for those. Okay. So and again, you know, we're getting started. We have until December to get going, and so I think everybody, I just wanted to say too, Belinda Trantham, because she handles the federal money, has been integral in this. She has really met with these principals. There are countless meetings with them, just trying to get through this system and get their goals put in. And we had someone from DPI come several weeks ago and met with the principals too, so tried to support them, you know, within that. Other questions?
When do you want next board meeting, Thursday? Be all right.
Is that okay with you?
Fine with it. Well, I'm fine with it. That,
And hopefully Brooke will have them too. You got a copy here, but then she'll try to upload them too.
That's
So,
hard.
Fine, yeah.
are you sure? Okay.
yeah, I'd be fine.
Might bring a copy for Mr. Kirkpatrick and Mr. Clark.
I think the big thing we're just gonna have to decide at the end of this year, the other school improvement plans are, to be revised. Do we want to go with this system, or do we want to stick to just the people that are there? And do we want to have everybody go on this plan or not? So that's just kind of where we are. We just wanted to get through it and see what it's like.
Okay. Sounds good.
Those are all the items, Mr. Francis, that we have for the open session part, or for the work session. I know we're not in an official meeting for the work session. We have talked about going into closed session for
Correct.
personnel and a legal update if that's necessary, and certainly property acquisition update for you all.
Okay. At this time, the work session will be officially closed, and after the closed session, there will be no action taken by the full board tonight.